that the Catholic Church was anti-science and killed everyone that opposed the Bible. The best example that these types of skeptics will give would be Giordano Bruno and Galileo. These claims are just utterly false, however. First, the Catholic Church was not anti-science. They were actually the ones that helped revolutionize science, in thinking that we can know God by doing natural theology. And they also argued from the time of Augustine to even now, and especially in the day of Galileo, that God gave us two books. This is the two-book doctrine given by Augustine, and many others held this exact same view. The way that it went was like, one is of the Bible. This is the first revelation. This is the first book, so to speak. All of the books of the Bible. And then the second is nature. And these two things, these two books, could not contradict each other. And if they were found to be, then our interpretation of one or the other would be wrong. This leads directly into Galileo. So to answer firstly, Galileo was certainly not killed by the Catholic Church. There is no historian today that exists that would say this type of idea. But you still may ask, well, what actually happened to Galileo? The Galileo affair began around 1610, but he was not condemned to house arrest or into jail until the time of about 1633. Galileo followed the new Copernicus view of heliocentrism. Now, many Catholics were against it, only because they thought that the Bible taught geocentrism, which is the belief that the Earth is the center of the universe and that the sun and the moon revolve around us. As I said earlier, with the two-book doctrine, it was not an issue at first because Galileo did not have any observable or empirical data to support his new position, or the Copernicus view. The church was not against it. Galileo wrote to them saying, hey, basically, if we do find that this view is true, if we find that heliocentrism is the view that is actually supported by scientific data, then here's how we can go about interpreting Scripture. This is how we can change our view of Scripture. And this would have been passages like Genesis, obviously, when talking about the creation of the sun, moon, and stars, and the earth. And then there was also passages like Joshua, where it talks about how the sun stood still, and whatnot, how people viewed those specific verses, because these are verses that people used in support of geocentrism of that day. So that's all it was. So why was Galileo condemned later on? Why was he imprisoned? Well, it's a part that most atheists and other skeptics just won't tell you when they talk about it. It goes into the idea of the day. The Pope was asking Galileo to include his own thoughts, the Pope's own thoughts on the subject when writing his hypothesis about the new scientific view. Galileo did this as requested, but he did it in a mocking way. This led to the Pope feeling he needed to do something because he was writing about, Galileo was writing about something that had very little evidence at the time and going against what the church was teaching. And then B, you attacked the Pope's character and his public image, basically calling him an idiot. So that was obviously not a great idea on Galileo's part, and that's what led to his house arrest and his imprisonment, whatever you may say. So Galileo was on trial with the Inquisition. During his trial, he lied, saying he did not accept the Copernican view, even though they all had all of his already previous writings of that day. He was put under house arrest for all of this. He was still able to go to doctors. He was still able to read and write. He was not killed. He was not hurt. He was not tortured. I think there was a moment where they threatened to torture him when he was lying, but we have no evidence that they actually went through with anything of that sort. So, obviously, once the Catholic Church found evidence for this new astronomical view of heliocentrism, the Church was all on board to accept this new view. The Church had no issue going with this. They just felt like they didn't have enough physical, empirical evidence to support this new scientific view, and that they should go with what the Scriptures say, because the Scriptures is from God. And this is just, again, it just goes directly into the two-book doctrine that every single Catholic or Christian believed of that day. So there's so many misconceptions about how the Catholics just killed everybody that was anti-science, but that is just such a fallacious claim. There's no merit to that idea whatsoever. And I may make a video later on talking about how science was advanced by Catholics. So like and subscribe and let me know what you guys think in the comments below.